Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining everybody for another bourbon review. And today we are going to be talking about a brand that I've never talked about before here on the channel, but excited to talk about them today. We are going to be getting into Two Soul Spirits. This particular one is a double oaked product coming from a distillate from Columbus, Ohio, Watershed Distillery. And when it was double oaked, it was actually double oaked in another barrel of Watershed. And I've got some more details about that. So, really excited to talk about this bold, beautiful bourbon with you. Let's kick off the show. All right. Got it good enough there for a bit of a tasting here as we go through this review. And absolutely lovely presentation. If you can see this, this is like this cool glass cork. The only other bottle I ever had that had a glass cork to it was Mic Drop. If you recall that, that was an MGP source product, gosh, handful of years ago at this point. But that was quite a bottle too. But the presentation on this is quite lovely. And I'm going to read a little description of this on the back, and then we'll get into all the stats and get into the flavor notes. We'll let this open up a bit because it is bold and spicy, man. It needs some time to air out whenever I explore this thing. But Two Soul Spirits represents a new breed of independent bottlers committed to full transparency. And there's a whole bunch of stuff on this front here we'll be going through. Collaboration and the search for the perfect spirit. Hand selected this single barrel offering because it represented the very best of American craft. Now, what's cool here is they took an outstanding bruiser of a 5-year bourbon from Watershed and finished it in a second Watershed bourbon barrel that previously held a sweeter profile 4-year bourbon. And what's great about that is I have a bottle from that previous 4-year bourbon that they're talking about. This was a pick from 2B, 1B. Cheers to David. Thank you for enlightening me here about so many brands, including Watershed. But David picked this as his 1-year anniversary for his group. And it is a very subtly sweet French vanilla kind of flavors to it. So when I first opened up this one, and this one we're getting the flavor notes. I mean, it is big, it is bold, it is bad. And they finished this bold bourbon in this delicate French vanilla forward bourbon to try to marry the two flavors. I think that is such a fun experiment. And the fact that I got to drink both of these side by side is such a treat as well for someone who's going to nerd out over that type of thing like me. So thank you, Two Souls. Thank you, Watershed, and thank you, David, for setting that whole thing up. And it just happened to fall together because, I get nerdy about this. So let me pull up the stats on this one here. So on the front here, I mean, this is all wide open. It says Watershed clearly on the front. We got the proof, 128.5. We got the years. It's at 6 years. Though based on the description that they have back here, it sounds like they're kind of adding up that aging process in that second barrel when they are age stating that year. And yeah, I mean, just all the details that you would want here. And this is available on the website. You can go to Two Souls. I think it's twosoulspirit.com. No affiliation with us whatsoever. Just throwing it out there because it is available as of recording. It was $95 though, and that'll be a big thing that we come back to at the end. A lot of the products that are on Two Souls websites kind of range between that $95 to $100 range. So you are helping support this new brand and the unique things that they're finding. And then they got the great presentations. So that is built into the price here. So let's get into then the tasting notes. We're going to go through the nose, go through the palate, and then we'll get to the final scores. So thank you for joining me so far, everybody. Cheers. Man, I mean, the thing that always struck me about this one, and you get it right back on the nose too, it is bold and spicy, just Lots of cinnamon, clove, brown sugar, kind of all up there, intense, concentrated. Uh, there's a little bit of milk chocolate there as well as you dive in deeper to it. From a fruit angle, you're really talking about more of a baked apple than anything else. And then there's a very distinct cereal throughout the whole thing, almost like a Special K cereal when I describe that. So, very, very good nose. The other thing that grabs my attention on this one, there's almost a waxiness to it that I associate with red licorice. So gave this one good marks on the nose. I guess it doesn't necessarily have that punch out flavor or combination of flavors for me to give it anything higher than an 8, but really love spending some time with this. I've spent a lot of time with this nose so far. All right, let's get into the palate. Hmm. One thing that man, one thing that consistently stands out on this one is the mouthfeel. It is oily as all get out, probably from the fact that it was double oaked in both those barrels. But man, does that translate to just an absolutely wonderful creamy mouthfeel, coats everywhere, and it brings all of that spice everywhere as well. So up front, once again, we're talking about that brown sugar, cinnamon, clove combination. Hit a pepper, but just spicy right off the bat. Really, really grips you. All right, let's get into mid palate. Mid palate is where I start finding some of the notes that I associate more with its cousin or I don't know, father. I don't know how you would describe the barrel that had the other watershed in it. But mid palate, yeah, you're talking about waves of vanilla. Uh, I get that red licorice and that waxiness again. Gonna go back to the spiciness of all the cinnamon, the clove, the pepper. That milk chocolate's still there, and then that spiced baked apple. So if you're going to go on the fruit route, I'm still going to lean towards some type of baked apple, you know, almost a pie filling type of a thing without all the dough around it. All right, let's get into the finish. Oh my gosh, so bold. Now, that oiliness that I was talking about up front, how oily this thing is, translates to a absolutely beautiful long finish. So on that one, flavor wise, it's pretty much what it was giving all along. All those spices, intensely spicy. Still feeling it right now. It does tend to drift into a vanilla the longer I sit with it. So, once again, it reminds me of that other watershed the more that I sit here. But yeah, just essentially all those same flavors. And gosh, if I were to pull out anything new, it would be really on the part of the experience I am right now when everything kind of really starts to dissipate. It does leave a toasted coconut kind of a taste, especially on the sides of my mouth here. Oh, beautiful. I'm going to go in for one more sip, see if I see anything else. Ah, no, I think that just describes it. Man, it is so bold. Golly, it just like really kicks you in the teeth with that spiciness. So, in terms of the balance, I mean, hey, you got to be up for a spicy pour if you want this. And when I say spicy, I mean that's just like the whole kitchen cabinet is just coming at you. So, gave it an 8 on balance, maybe I love a bit more sweetness. I can only imagine what it was before it got finished in the other watershed. I mean, it was probably even more aggressive than that. And then value, I gave it an 8 at $95. You got to realize what you're paying for. You're paying to support a smaller company who's trying to do something more unique, putting some great presentation in this beautiful bottle. But in terms of what it offers as a bourbon, I mean, comparatively, you are going to find things that are more in the 65 to $75 range that kind of bat around this level. So took down a few points there on value. So it all summarizes then into the flavor score, experience score, and value score. A very interesting pour that actually has a experience I enjoy more so than all the flavors. Not to say I didn't enjoy all the flavors, because as you saw from all the scores, it got eights across the board. And just a good pour, a very good pour gets sevens. So when I'm giving everything eights, it still elevates. It just didn't have that knockout punch to get any nines on the flavors. But where it does excel was on the mouthfeel, which then translates into that very long finish, which elevated that experience score. All in all, that brings it to an 82 out of 100. And we're not far enough into 2024 for me to put down any out of 2024 rankings yet. But just know last year, to be a top 10 pour, to be a top 20 pour, you're looking for something between an 83 and an 85 at a minimum to make that list. So I don't know if it's going to be able to make the list at the end of the year when it comes to the top 20, but it is right on the cusp. And all time then of all the reviews done for the channel so far, it's at 53 out of 138. So you are talking about a at least upper echelon below above average pour if you're getting into it. But man, I would recommend this to particularly people that are into craft whiskeys. If you haven't tried out Watershed yet, man, this is an interesting one to go out there and try. I mean, this is one of the best Watershed products I've ever had. The single barrel here was one of the best ones I ever had before that. There were some great picks too from Happy Hour called OH and then IO that my friend Spencer let me taste a couple weeks ago. And those were good as well. So I'm having like this really fun time with Watershed over the last couple months. Love to spread the word about it and appreciate Two Souls highlighting them with their products as well. So that concludes the review for the Two Souls Double Oak Bourbon. Just keep in mind with the Two Souls, if you go on their website, I mean, they are releasing these unique expressions throughout the year, so you can check out their releases. I saw one on there from Jay Henry that I'm now like bummed out about. I was a little slow on getting hip to this brand in time to try the 6-year Jay Henry that they had. But keep an eye on them. If they're highlighting some good brands and they're doing some unique things like finishing a product in another single barrel of the same product to see if they can even out the flavor profile by mixing this bold one with this like sweet, delicate one and just seeing if they can marry the two in the middle. I've never heard anybody trying that. If anything, when you just hear the double oak, it's just to add some, generic flavor. Or I guess we do it with the finishing, with the wine finishes and the rum finishes and stuff, but never think about it in terms of almost using it as a blending agent to calm down a bold bourbon. I'm just so fascinated by it. I really want to try it before it was finished to understand how spicy and kicky in the teeth that thing had to have been if that other barrel is what calmed it down. Whew. But very interesting experiment, and I'm going to sign on for more. And hey, some still available if you want to sign on with me. So thank you for joining me for today's review, everybody. Let me know in the comments if you've ever tried anything from Two Souls or what you've heard about this brand, anything that's impressed you. This is the first time you're hearing about it. Hey, maybe it's time to check them out. So thank you for joining me today, whiskey friends. We'll catch you on the next bourbon review. Goodbye, everybody.
Jeff, just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello again. Oh, Jeffrey, you should just be friends with me. But you have these whiskey friends, and you say hello.